All right, in this video, we're going to look at some more examples of graphing quadratic equations when they're written in vertex form. But in these examples, we're going to notice that our equation that we're given is missing parentheses like in the generic form that's written in pink here on the right side of your screen. And when we are missing the parentheses or the house, our h is also missing. And when the h is missing, we'll see that it's actually equal to 0. So in these two examples that we're going to do on this video, we're going to see in both of these cases that the h value of our vertex is going to be equal to 0. Now the k value, on the other hand, is the value that's being added or subtracted to the end of the equation. And in this case, we have a 4 that's being subtracted. So that means that since k is true to his sign and does the same thing as what you would expect, that since we have -4 written here in the equation, our k value in our vertex is also going to be -4. So our vertex for this example is going to be the ordered pair 0, -4. Okay, so that's the step one, is always start with identifying that vertex, those h's and those k values. So in this example, we have no h, so it's 0. We have a k, so it's -4. From there, we can move on to creating our table again. So just like in all of the previous examples that we've done, our vertex should always go in the center of our table. We get 0, and we get a -4 on the y side. Okay, and just like before, when we have a whole number for a, in this case we have a 7 for a, we have a 7 for a, that means that we're going to find the numbers that are 1 to the left and 1 to the right of 0, because 0 is our h value. And that means that our numbers are going to be 1, 1, and -1, and then 2 and -2. Okay, so again, 5 numbers with 0 centered in the middle. Because we're dealing with a being a whole number, our numbers are going to be the 5 sequential numbers, so -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. All right, then we can complete the center part of our table. And our equation is 7 times x, which is -2 in the first row, squared, minus 4. Then in the second row, we get 7 parenthesis -1 this time, because of the left side of the table, squared minus 4. Then below the 0, -4, we get 7 parenthesis 1 squared minus 4. And then the last one, we get 7 parenthesis 2 squared minus 4. Okay? Then solving this in a calculator, again, I cannot stress this, use a calculator. All right, we get -2 squared is 4. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 minus 4 is 24. Then for -1, we get 3. And then we get 3 again for the 1 value under the -4. And then we round out with a 24. Again. And there's our completed table, and now we can move on to step 3, which is to plot our graph. So we can start at 0, -4. So starting at 0, go down to -4. Then we get the 2 points on the side of that. Again, 24 is too big of a number. We can't go that high. So that's when we just do the 3 middle values. We get 1, 3. And -1, 3. And then we draw our parabola. Don't forget your arrows on the end. And that's another perfect example of how to do a quadratic when we don't have an h value, but we do have a k value. Okay, I want to do one more example just like this, but this time we have a fraction for a. Okay, so we're getting up a little bit harder again. If you've watched the previous two videos, you've seen what we've done with the fractions, so let's just give it a little bit more practice. For this one, we're still going to start with identifying our vertex. Again, we're missing our house. We don't have any parentheses, so that means that our h value is going to be 0. And then behind our equation at the end, we have this -1. So our k value is going to be -1. Okay, completing the table, we set the vertex in the center, so we get 0 and -1 on the left and right side. And then, just like in the previous examples, when we have a fraction for a, in this case 2/3, we can't just go 1 to the left and 1 to the right of 0. We have to go 3 to the left and 3 to the right because we want numbers that can easily be multiplied by this fraction, and the fraction actually turns back into a whole number. So we're choosing to go 3 to the right and 3 to the left. Okay, so when we look at 0, 3 to the right would be 3, and then 6, 3 more. And so the other side will go -3 and -6. Okay, so let's set up our equation. We get 2/3 times x squared, which is -6 squared, minus 1. And then the next level, we get 2/3 times -3 squared, minus 1. Then below our vertex at 0, -1, we get 2/3 times 3 squared, minus 1. And then on the end of our table, we get 2/3 times 6 squared, minus 1. Okay? Please use a calculator when you're doing these problems, so that way you can avoid those simple mistakes. All right? The calculators can help with the fractions. Okay? So when we put this in a calculator, we get -6 squared for the first row is equal to 36. 36 times 2/3 is going to be 24 minus 1, so we get 23. Okay. And then we get -3 squared, which is 9. 9 times 2/3 is going to be 6. Minus 1, we get 5. And then below it, we get 3 squared is 9. 9 times 2/3 is going to be 6. Minus 1, we get 5 again. And then 2/3 times 6 squared minus 1. 6 squared is 36. 36 times 2/3 is going to be 24. Minus 1 is 23. Okay, use a calculator to confirm those. And we see again those top two values are too large, so we're going to do the middle three only. Starting with the vertex, we get 0, -1. So starting at 0, we're going to go down to -1 and plot a point. Then we get the next point is 3, 5. And -3, 5. And from there we can draw to complete our parabola. Don't forget your arrows. Okay, so there's two examples on how to graph quadratics when we don't have the h value, but we do have a k value. Okay, so you'll likely see a couple of these problems as you work through your assignments. Use these to help you. You can go back through the videos if you need it. All right, best of luck.